Hello there, this is Rudra sir, and we start with today The Boy Who Broke the Bank, written by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond, as you know, one of the famous Indo Anglican writer, is a very easy and simple manner of writing, and that's the reason why he is so well known and renowned. And literally in every class, you have one chapter at least from Ruskin Bond, which shows how easy, familiar, and popular he is with the children. So, this story is The Boy Who Broke the Bank. Nathu, the sweeper boy, grumbled to himself as he swept the steps of a small local bank owned by Seth Govindram, a man of wealth, whose haphazard business dealings had often brought him to the verge of ruin. So, first is the sweeper boy Nathu, and he is grumbling to himself, and what he is doing, he is sweeping the steps of the small local bank. This bank is owned by Seth Govindram. Now Seth Govindram is a man of wealth, is a wealthy man, but haphazard business dealings means not proper systematic planning in terms of his finances or money, had often brought him on the verge of ruin. This has often brought him on the verge of his downfall. So that means he's a businessman. He has a lot of wealth, but not like most other businessmen, or like many businessmen who are not proper with their planning, with their business. They are not right. He is also one of them. Nathu used to use the small broom hurriedly and carelessly. That means he is not attentive towards sweeping. The dust, after rising in a cloud above his head, settled down again on the steps. So he's not concerned about sweeping the steps clean, because you can see that the dust of his sweeping settles down on the steps again. As he banged his pan loudly against a dustbin, Sitaram, the washerman's boy, his son, passed by. So he was in a bad mood. He's in an angry mood. He's gloomy and sad and angry also. So that's why you can understand that he's banging the pan loudly against a dustbin. Sitaram, the washerman's son, he was passing by. Sitaram was on his delivery route. That means Sitaram was delivering all the washed and ironed clothes to the household. He had a bundle of freshly pressed clothes balanced on his head. Pressed clothes means ironed clothes. Don't raise such dust, he called out to Nathu. Are you annoyed because they are still refusing to pay you another 5 rupees a month? So he says, why are you raising such dust? Why you are angry? He understood that Nathu was angry. He says, why are you raising this dust? Just because they are refusing to pay you another 5 rupees a month. I don't want to talk about it, complained the sweeper boy. The sweeper said, I don't want to complain. I haven't even received my regular pay. That means no raise is given, means an increment or an increase in salary. Not only that, but also his regular salary also he has not got. Soon 2 months pay will be due. That means he is already due by 2 months nearly. Salary is not given to him. Who would think that a bank, who would think this was a bank holding up a poor man's salary? So he says it's unimaginable that a bank like this would be holding up a poor sweeper's salary like mine for 2 months. Who would think about it? As soon as I get my money, I am off. He says the moment they pay me my money, I am going to go away. Not another week will I work in this place. No, I'm not going to work here for anymore. And Nathu banged his pan against the dustbin several times, and he banged the pan several times against the dustbin. Well, I wish you luck, said Sitaram. I will be on the lookout for a new job for you. He says, okay, don't worry, I will look and search for a new job for you. And he plodded barefoot along the road. And he walked along the road barefoot without any slippers or shoes on his legs, that is barefoot. The big bundle of clothes hiding most of his head and shoulders. The big bundle that he was carrying, it was so big that it was hiding most of his head and shoulders. At the fourth home he visited, delivering the washing, Sitaram heard the woman of the house saying how difficult it was to get someone to sweep the courtyard. And at the fourth house that he was delivering clothes, Sitaram heard the woman of the house saying that she needed someone to sweep the courtyard. Tying his bundle, Sitaram said, I know of a sweeper boy who is looking for work. He might be able to work for you from next month. He says, you want a sweeper? Don't worry. I will arrange for a sweeper boy for you. From next month, the sweeper boy will be available. He is with Seth Govindram's bank just now. But they aren't giving him his pay. and he wants to leave. He says, that bank, said Govindram's bank, there he works, but they are not giving him his pay, his salary, so he wants to leave. Oh, is that so? Said Mrs. Prakash. And why aren't they paying him? They must be short of money, said Sitaram with a shrug. So Mrs. Prakash says, why are they not giving him the money? They should pay him the salary. Sitaram said, maybe they are short of money. They don't have that much money to pay the salary. With a shrug, means he just shrugged his shoulders. So I don't know. Maybe this is the reason. Mrs. Prakash laughed. Well, tell him to come and see me when he is free. He says, okay. Don't worry. Tell him to come when he is free. Sitaram, glad that he had been of help to both a customer and his friend, hoisted his bag on his shoulders and went on his way. So Sitaram was happy. He had helped both his friend, the Nathu, and at the same time the customer, who was used to taking clothes from him, pressed clothes from him. So he had been able to help that customer. So he is very happy in that regard, that I have been able to help both of them. Soon after, Mrs. Prakash set out for the bazaar to make her usual afternoon tour of the cloth shops. So, as most women do in the afternoons, they go around the shops, rummaging through things and seeing what is there, new, what has come, and all that. So, she also went on his usual tour of the shops. A large shady tamarind tree grew near the clock tower. It was here that she found her friend, Mrs. Bhushan, sheltering from the heat. Because it was a warm, sunny day, she found her friend Mrs. Bhushan. She was sheltering from the heat and under a large shady tamarind tree which grew near the clock tower. Under that shade of the tree she was resting. Do you know, my dear, Mrs. Prakash said, that Seth Govindram's bank can't even pay its employees. So she has nothing new to say. So this is the news that she gives, that Seth Govindram's bank cannot pay its employers. It doesn't have that much money. Only this morning I heard a complaint from their sweeper boy who hasn't received his pay for 2 months. He said, today only I heard from his sweeper boy that they are not able to pay the sweeper boy his salary for 2 months. It is disgraceful, exclaimed Mrs. Bhushan. Mrs. Bhushan said, it is sad and disgraceful and insulting. If they can't pay the sweeper, they must be in a bad way. He says, if they can't pay the sweeper, it suggests the financial condition. What is their condition? They cannot pay the sweeper. They must be in a very bad condition. None of the others can be getting paid either. That means the others also are not getting paid. Okay. Mrs. Bhushan left Mrs. Prakash at the tamarind tree and went in search of her husband. So Mrs. Bhushan left Mrs. Prakash there at the shade of the tamarind tree, and she went off in search of her husband, who was found sitting under the fan in Jugal Kishore's electrical goods shop, talking to the owner. And as she was looking for her husband, she found her husband sitting at the electrical shop of Jugal Kishore under the sweet air of the electrical fan. So there you are, cried Mrs. Bhushan. I've been looking for you for nearly an hour. I don't know what's happening to this town. He says, here you are. I've been looking for you all over for nearly an hour around the town. Anyway, you know what is happening in this town? Did you know the bank is going to go bankrupt? Now, bankrupt is without money, zero balance. So he says, do you know this bank of ours, this Seth Govindram's bank, this is going to be soon a zero balance bank, not able to pay anything. What did you say? Said Mr. Jugal Kishore, sitting up suddenly. Which bank? Now, Mr. Jugal Kishore, the owner of the electric shop, he sat up in his shop. Yes. Which shop you are saying? Which bank? Sorry, which bank you are saying? Why, said Govindram's bank, of course. I hear they have stopped paying their employees. No salary for over 3 months. So now see how a particular statement becomes magnified many times. It's a rumor, gujob or afwa as it is called. So that is spread on, and people add their own spices and all their own statements to it, and it continues. So he says, don't you know they have stopped paying the employees. Now from sweeper it becomes the whole employees. No salary for over 3 months. Now it was 2 months, it has become 3 months. Don't tell me you have an account with them, Mr. Kishore. And he says, oh, you have an account with them, Mrs. Bhushan says. Don't tell me you have an account with them. No, but my neighbor has, he said. And he called out to the keeper of the barber shop next door. He says, no, I don't have, but my neighbor has one. And he called out to the barber who was in the next shop. Faiz Hussain, have you heard the latest? Said Govindram's bank is about to collapse. So that was his neighbor. the barber Faiz Hussain, and he says, "Hey Faiz Hussain, you know, listen to the latest news that Seth Govindram's bank is about to collapse, about to break down. You'd better take your money out while there is still time." He says, "You have money in the bank, take it out immediately while there is still time, but later on you may not get the time to take your money out of the bank, and maybe there won't be any money left to pay you." Faiz Hussain, who was cutting the hair of an elderly gentleman, was so startled that his hand shook and he nicked the customer's right ear. Faiz Hussain was cutting the hair of an elderly gentleman, and this was a very shocking news for him, and he was startled, he was surprised, he was shocked, and as a result his hand shook. And you know, cutting hair is a very delicate business, and just near the ears he was cutting probably, and he nicked the customer's ears with the scissors. A little bit of a cut was there on the customer's ears. The customer yelped with pain and distress. So with pain and suffering and discomfort, this man yelled out because he's cut in the ear. Pain because of the cut and distress because of the awful news he has just heard. So two effect. One is the pain because of the cut, and distress means a disturbance. Disturbance is because he had just now heard this news that said Govindram's bank is closing. With one side of his neck still unshorn, he leaped out of his chair and sped across the road to a general store where there was a telephone. Now this elderly gentleman who was sitting, half of his beard was not cut, half of his head was not properly trimmed, and in that condition he leapt out of the chair, ran across the road to a general store where there was a telephone. Now in those days you didn't have mobile phones and all, you had the landline. So there were public booths, PCO as it was called. So he rushed to that public booth where there was a telephone. He dialed Seth Govindram's number. The Seth was not at home. Where was he then? The Seth was holidaying in Kashmir. Oh, was that so? The elderly gentleman did not believe it. So he called the Seth Govindram's number, and what he was told, that Seth is not here. He is in Kashmir. He is enjoying his holidays. But he did not think so. He did not believe it. That means he thought Seth Govindram has run away. Seth Govindram has realized the financial condition of the bank and he has run away. That is what he guessed. That the servants won't be telling the truth, that the master is run away because the bank is about to collapse. They have been told to say that Seth Govindram is having a nice holiday in Kashmir. He hurried back to the barber shop and told Faiz Hussain, "The bird has flown." Bird means here Seth Govindram. He ran quickly to Faiz Hussain, the barber, and he told him, "You know, the bird has flown. Seth Govindram has left town. Seth Govindram has left the town." Definitely it means a collapse. He says, "There is no doubt this is a collapse, breakdown. I will have the rest of my hair cut another time." And then he dashed out of the shop, making a beeline for his office and checkbook. So he says, "Okay, don't worry, I will have my hair cut later on. First the money, then the haircut. So I'll come later on to have the remainder of the haircut. But for the time being," he dashed out of the shop. And what did he do? He making a beeline for his office and checkbook, making a quick run towards his office and the checkbook where he's going to withdraw the money. The news spread through the bazaar with the rapidity of a forest fire. And a forest fire, if you know, it spreads very quickly because there are dry leaves, grass, sticks. So all this burn very quickly. The wind blows and it spreads over miles very quickly. So just like this, the news of the bank closing spread across the bazaar very, very quickly. From the general store, it traveled to the tea shop, circulated amongst the customers, and then spread with them in various directions to the pan seller, the tailor, the fruit vendor, the jeweler, and the beggar sitting on the pavement. So in this way, in this way the news circulated. This is the circulation. From the general store, it traveled to the tea shop, and in the tea shop you have many customers. Many of them were sitting down there and having tea. And when they heard the news, they ran off in different directions. And from there, the news spread to the pan seller, the tailor, the fruit vendor, that is the fruit seller, the jeweler, and the beggar who was sitting on the pavement. He also got the news. Men stood in groups at street corners discussing the situation. So there was groups of people at different corners sitting and discussing about this topic. The small town in the foothills seldom had a crisis and never had floods, earthquakes, or drought. So there had been nothing startling or extraordinary happening in this particular small town in the foothills. There had never been flood, earthquake, drought. Nothing had happened. So here was a crisis, and this is the first time probably that they were having a crisis in the form of a financial crisis, the bank closing out. And so the imminent crash of the local bank, imminent means something which is going to happen. Imminent means something which is going to happen. Imminent crash of the local bank, that means the bank is going to crash very soon. This statement set everyone talking and speculating. That means making guesses. Speculating means making guesses. Okay, suppose the cricket match is being played and you make a guess, or maybe this team will win, making that team will win. So you are speculating. So speculating and rushing about in a frenzy. So everyone was speculating, making their own guesses and then rushing about in a frenzy. Some boasted of their far-sightedness, congratulating themselves on having already taken out their money. Some people boasted, they were very proud of their far-sightedness. Far-sighted means able to see the future. Okay, you know that such and such thing is going to happen, so you take a particular decision. See, I knew it is going to happen, that is why I did this. Okay, suppose the price of diesel and petrol is increasing, you buy 10 liters of petrol. So it says, see, at a lower price when the price is low, and then when the price increases, you say to everyone, see, I knew the price would increase, that is why I purchased 10 liters. So that is my far-sightedness. So here also many people boasted that they were very far-sighted because they had already withdrawn the money from the bank, or on never having put any in. And some people boasted and said, see, we knew this bank is going to collapse, that is why we did not open an account in this bank. Others speculated on the reasons for the crash, putting it all down to said Govind Ram's pleasure-loving ways. And other people speculated or guessed, why did this crash happen? Some people said that this extraordinary and extravagant lifestyle that Mr. said Govind Ram leads, the extraordinary kind of pleasure that he likes to enjoy, that is one of the reasons why the bank has crashed. The Seth had fled the state, said one. One of them said, yes, that is why the Seth has run away. He had fled the country, said another. Another one said he has left the country so that he cannot be caught. Others insisted that he was hiding somewhere in town. Some others says, no, he has not left the country, he is hiding somewhere in the town, so that is keeping track of the situation. Someone who had a relative working as a clerk in the banks decided to call him and get the facts. I don't know anything about it, said the clerk. Someone had a relative who worked as a clerk in the bank, and he called up that clerk of the bank and said, do you know the bank has crashed and all? The clerk said, no, I don't know anything, except that half the town is here trying to take their money out. Everyone seems to have gone mad. The clerk said, I don't know, but here half the town is here, everyone is taking their money out, and everyone seems to be mad that they are taking their money out. There's a rumor that none of you have been paid. Well, the clerks have had their salaries. So the man said, we have heard a rumor that you are not paid your salaries. The clerk said, no, we have paid our salaries. We wouldn't be working otherwise. The clerk said, why would we work? If you are not getting salaries for months, why would we work? It may be that some of the part-time workers are getting paid late. So he said, maybe we are full-time workers, we are getting our salaries, otherwise we would not work. Part-time workers, workers who work for short duration of time, who are temporary, they may not be getting paid. But that isn't due to a shortage of money. It's just that the clerk who looks after their payments is on sick leave. He says, and the reason for that is not shortage of money. Why these part-time workers are not getting money, it is not because of the shortage of money. It is just that the clerks who look after the payment is on sick leave. It is only because the clerks who look after the payment of these part-time workers, they are on sick leave. You don't expect me to do work, do you? His work, do you? And he put the telephone down. He says, what do you expect? You expect me to do the work of that clerk also who is sick, and make payment to all those part-time workers? Do you expect me to do that? Of course I won't do his job. By afternoon, the bank had gone through all its ready money. Ready money means the cash which is there in the bank. It had already finished. And the harassed bank manager was helpless, and the bank manager was harassed by the people. Emergency funds could only be obtained from one of the government banks, and now it was nearly closing time. Closing time means the time for banks to close. And if you have to have emergency funds, that has to be got from a government bank, and that government bank was nearly closing. It was closing time, so it was going to be closed. They couldn't get the money now. The clerk shut down their counters, but people gathered outside on the steps of the bank shouting, we want our money, give it to us today or we'll break in. First said Govind Ram, we know he's hiding in the walls. So the people were very angry. They said, no, we want our money today. Today you will have to give it all. We will break into the bank. We'll break everything that is around. and fetch said Govindram, bring said Govindram here. We know he is hiding somewhere in those vaults of the bank where you store money. He is hiding somewhere there. Mischief maker who did not have a paisa in the bank joined the crowd. Mischief makers mean these mongers, these people who do not have even a single paisa in the bank. They thought of doing some mischief. There are such characters there always available. When there is some kind of a confusion and a problem, they enter into it, although they have no role to play. These people did not have any account in the bank, but still they gathered inside that crowd and tried to create some mischief. The manager stood at the door and tried to calm the angry customers. He declared that the bank had plenty of money, that they could withdraw all they wanted the next morning. The bank manager said, okay, wait, today we cannot arrange for the money. It is closing time. Tomorrow you come, we will give all your money. We have plenty of money. We don't need to wait. Tomorrow morning you can get it. We want it now, chanted the people. Now, now, now. A few stones were thrown and the manager retreated indoors, closed the iron grill gate. A brick hurtled through the air and smashed into the plate glass window which advertised the bank's assets. So that's where people got angry, and then a few stones were thrown. The bank manager then went indoors, and someone hurled a brick and it broke the glass window of the bank, or the glass door, if you may say, or that which announced all the details of the bank. Then the police arrived. They climbed the steps of the bank and pushed the crowd back until the people began falling over each other. Gradually everyone dispersed, shouting that they would be back in the morning. So the police finally came. They pushed back the crowd and the crowd dispersed. That means everyone went their own way, and they promised they would come the next morning. Nathu arrived next morning to sweep the steps of the bank. He saw the refuse and the broken glass and the stones cluttering the steps. Raising his hands in horror, he cried, "Gundas, hooligans!" He arrived at the steps of the bank to do his duty, and he saw there was broken glass, there were stones and a lot of other rubbish, and he says, these are gundas, hooligans. May they suffer from 1,000 ills. It was bad enough, paid irregularly, now I must suffer an increase in work. He says, already I am not paid regularly, and then on top of this you have this increase in work. He smacked the steps with his broom, scattering the refuse, and he got angry. He hit the steps with the broom. Good morning, Nathu, said Sitaram, the washerman's son, getting down from his bicycle. Are you ready to take up a new job from the 1st of next month? You will have to, I suppose, now that the bank is closing. Sitaram met Nathu and says, hey, are you ready to take up a new job? I have arranged for a new job for you from next month. I think that you have to take a new job, I suppose, because this bank is closing. What did you say? Said Nathu. Haven't you heard? The bank's gone bankrupt. You'd better hang around until the others arrive, and then start demanding your money too. He says, wait here. The bank has gone bankrupt. All these people will come soon in the morning. You wait there with them, and you will also get your money. You will be lucky if you get it. And if you are lucky, you will get it, because the bank's condition is not good, and I don't think you will get your salary. But still stay here. See if you are lucky enough to get your money. He waved cheerfully and pedaled away on his cycle. So he waved to him goodbye, and he went away pedaling on his cycle. Nathu went back to sweeping the steps, muttering to himself. When he had finished, he sat down on the bottom step to wait for the manager. He was determined to get his pay. So Nathu went back to his shop. He was sweeping the steps, and when he had finished, he sat on the steps waiting for the manager, because he was told to wait by Sitaram. So he was determined to get his pay. He was determined to get his salary. Who would have thought the bank would collapse, he said to himself. So he said to himself, who would have thought this bank would collapse? And looked thoughtfully across the street. I wonder how it could have happened. And that's the most ironical thing that he says at the end, that I wonder how could such a big bank collapse, and how could it have been possible? How could it have happened without realizing little that he himself is responsible, and not him actually, but that statement which he made, and that statement as a rumor, as it spread around, the news gathered more and more information around it. Everyone started adding their own inputs into that particular news, and that is what resulted ultimately in this rumor, in this news spreading all over town and creating all this chaos, and spreading the news to everyone that the bank is getting closed. Okay, so that's the story. See you then. Goodbye.